Hi there. So welcome back to installment 3 of this week's Let's Get Drawn in Illustrator. I feel like I have to jazz this up. We watch a lot of YouTube videos in my house, and so they always have very uh, excited voices. So I probably won't jazz this up. But I did want to point out that I broke these into 3 20-minute videos so that you could stop and play around with things. And I'll make that point in a video that I'm going to send out once all 3 of these videos are up. Stop, play around, and do some drawings in between. And then after you've gotten started with these videos and have a hang of how to do things, then over the weekend you're going to start drawing your drawings, and I know at least one person is already doing that. So we've got the basic, and I'm taking breaks too. I actually went upstairs and made myself kind of an early lunch because I didn't have breakfast, and changed out dogs. So I have a different dog here. I'm calling them my coworkers. And all right, so let's get to it. So we did this basic shape, and you'll notice that I'm using the hand tool to move around for me. So now we want to start looking at kind of putting some mesh gradient in. And I always tell people the same thing, which is I can teach you how to use a paintbrush, but I can't teach you how to be Michelangelo, which is the same thing. It applies to this as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by locking everything other than this base layer, and we're going to evaluate how color is working. He has this kind of light area and then this dark area, and then he's actually light at the bottom, and then he has these 2 shadows. So we're going to start there. And again, like, I can teach you how to do this, but I can't, like, you have to feel your way through it, which means that you just have to practice. So I'm going to select my color, and actually I usually select in the head. Depending on where you select, you're going to get the wrong color, and so after having drawn this guy so many times, I can tell you that, like, having a darker color makes this look a little bit better. Once I've selected the color, I'm going to come into the mesh gradient tool. And so let's stop before we go any further and like talk about what the mesh gradient tool is. And I think I've showed you a few things, but for the mesh gradient tool, it's basically, you know, if I have a color and I choose another color, and I'm going to choose orange. I was about ready to choose green, but or red, but I thought it would be too Christmassy. And I click. You can see that it diffuses that color. Now each one of those lines that you see has a little handlebar, and they're very hard to see, but you can see that I can move that color around, and I can pull it back and forward. And so that's what we're basically doing. Now, to do really good mesh gradient, and honestly, I have great videos in that video tutorial on how to do mesh gradient in a lot of ways. Everybody does it differently. Some people do it like much more systematically. I kind of feel my way through the drawing. So I'm going to pick that dark color, and I'm going to put 3 areas, you know, moving down to kind of create that band of darkness. And I'll unclick and see how I like it. Now, one of the things that happens is this duck butt is actually kind of dark. So I'm going to go ahead and select the 3 points that are the duck butt. Now notice that every time I put a point down, it created a point, but then it created a web that goes across all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and select my duck butt and make it a little bit dark. And that duck butt is actually quite a bit darker than the other stuff that I'm going to do. So I'm going to pull that darker color out a little bit. And you can see that I've kind of created that sense of darkness around the base. I'm going to stop there because I don't want to bombard you with like getting too crazy technical on our first drawing. And then come up here to our mesh right up here. And those, again, I don't grab colors from there. They're way too dark, so I tend to grab in the head for these colors. And then I'm going to try to make connections to mesh gradients that I already have. So you can see that I have already a line here. So I'm going to put a dark area there, and then I have a line here, and I'm going to put a dark area there. And the reason why I'm doing that is because adding another line on top of another line, if there's something already there that I can use, is not in our best interest. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that point, and I'm going to create, I'm going to fill that point. Let's go back. I'm going to select that point and select a darker color to kind of make that shadow that his bill has. And then I've done this as well. I'm going to leave it there for the moment. All right, so sorry I had to take another call from the Associate Dean. All right, so we have two shadows working. They're dark enough. If we go as dark as All right, sorry you guys, I didn't realize I had my mic pushed to the top of my head, and then I had a little bit of a coughing fit. My allergies are driving me nuts. Anyway, so I was saying that I have these two shadows indicated. They're not as dark as they are here, but frankly, if we play them as dark as we are here, number one, we have to do a much more detailed drawing, and this is really just intended to get your feet wet. And number two, they really are dark. You know, it's very different in pixel format versus what happens in vector format. All right, so I'm going to unclick there because we've got the body pretty much taken in hand, and then we're going to move up to the head. So I'm going to unclick the head, and I'm going to select the head and make it much darker than it is now. Because the way this head works is it's literally the easiest. Whoops, you can see if I pick the wrong shade, it goes real dark real quick. It's really just a highlight here in the center. So we're going to let that go. And then I'm going to come down here, and I'm actually going to pick one of these really bright yellows to get a little bit more contrast. And then I'm going to go with my eyedropper, and then I'm going to go back to my mesh gradient, and I'm going to pop it in the center of his head. And that does a really great job of kind of illuminating his face. So we're going to leave those guys alone for the time being, and now we're going to move on to his bill, because the bill is actually, I don't like the way that that's working. It's maybe a little bit too bright. All right, better. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is do his bill. You can see that they have two highlights that I consider to be really important, and those are oddly enough easier than you would assume. So we're going to go ahead and lock our head, unlock our bottom of the bill, and before we zoom in on this, we're going to come over and grab the color. You can see it's actually kind of a pink color, it's not white, so that's a really important thing to know, is that sometimes color in a color has a little bit of a different expectation than you might have thought, or that you might have expected. So I'm going to come over to my mesh now that I have the pink, and I'm going to hit click. Now you can see that that washes back, and I know you're thinking, oh, this is never going to work, this is never going to work. I want you to think about this as like holding the dam. because that's basically what we're about ready to do. We're going to hold the dam that is flooding through that. Oops, I'm going to put that back. And then we're going to do that by, and this is the really key thing, we're going to go to outlines, and to hold the dam, oops, let's go back into preview, because I need to actually grab the dark color before I do this. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to select that dark color that, oops, make sure you don't have anything selected when you do this. I'm going to select that dark color. And then I'm going to go back into outline view. And I'm going to go to my mesh gradient and I'm going to click right on the other side of this. And then this is the line where the pink is happening. I'm going to click there. Oops. I'm going to click right there. I'm going to click right there. And I'm going to click on the other side. So basically I held it on all four corners. You can see that I clicked here, 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 and here. And when we go to preview, what you're going to see is that we now have a very teeny tiny highlight that is perfect, right? So it's super easy. And again, you're basically holding a dam so that color is not flooding back that way. We're going to do the same thing here on this top bill. So we're going to unclick here. I noticed while I was doing this that I was not very happy with this area over here, and I was probably trying to go a little bit more quickly than I needed to. So I'm going to unlock that layer and fix those. And to be honest, I really think that I have too many points here. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to delete that. And then I'm just going to smooth that over. Too many points, and I did not make this point. A lot of people try to draw like this. If you do this, number one, your mesh gradient is going to be a complete disaster. You need to do as few points as possible, and that's why my technique works, because you're doing as few points as possible. So before we go on, I'm going to zoom out a little bit and grab that color. Pepper, knock it off. You're on video. I don't know if you can hear, but my dog is deciding that she doesn't want to be with me anymore because she can hear everybody upstairs. All right, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click right there at the edge, and you can see that this time the line went back that way and around this way. And then I am going to come over here and I'm going to select that. Oops, remember, unclick what you're doing. I'm going to select over here for that color. Now, one of the reasons why I do the outline view is because sometimes it's very hard to see. But if you roll over it, you can see it, and I'm hoping you can see it in the video. But you can see it. So I can still do the dam here. So you can see that I'm coming on all of those four areas. And I'm just giving myself a teeny tiny highlight. So let's look at like our duck with mesh gradient versus our duck without, which is one of the reasons why I like to have this guy waiting in the wings. You can see that he has dimension. He looks like a reasonably like cheap piece of clip art. You know, I would never sell this to anybody because it's very much a quick rough drawing. But you can see that very, very quickly, you know, we could have this duck with a sense of light and shadow very easily. Mesh gradient is amazing. There are a million tutorials on how to do mesh differently, and everybody's going to do it differently. Like I said, I tend to feel my way through it. Others tend to do it in a more methodical way. So I would encourage you to review all the options that are available in YouTube. But I always like to give you kind of a starter point and an understanding of what you're dealing with. All right. So that's the end of videos for this week. What I would like you to be doing as you move into next week is having reviewed all of these videos for this week. Give me your 100 to 150 word statement along with your project that you're going to be posting for Thursday, which is today. And then start drawing over the weekend. You will have more videos that will be part of what I'm expecting you to do during class, much like we would be doing demos during class. And I'll give you a little bit of time before I start looking at the drawings that you're doing. Thanks.